In my previous video, I brought together 3 points as to how Cynthia G seems to justify her behavior towards whites. We got current day oppression, the white devil gene, and black coons. Now it's time to tackle each of those 3 points to further invalidate her stance of blacks versus whites. We'll start with the idea that black people are still oppressed. Let me say that narrative and placebo are strong things. If you wake up believing you are oppressed, you'll feel it in everyday activities. The problem is that you have to jump gaps of information in order to feed that narrative. For example, white cop shoots black guy. Therefore, race played a role in the shooting. For many, this is just a brain dead, of course. But there's a quick jump to this assumption without any information supporting it. With a strong enough imagination, everything can feel racist. Unfortunately, this leads to a drama generator that accomplishes nothing. When you compare black people in America to women under sharia law, the differences are staggering and noticeable. Usually in the case of real oppression, the oppressed group has limited access to marriage, education, and/or work. This isn't done in a cheap sleight of hand fashion either. It's printed on paper as law in order to keep the oppressed group from rising up. Plenty of black people have accomplished amazing things in this country, and it's stupid to jump gaps and write them all off as sellouts. On the opposite side of things, there is the idea of white oppression, which is just more narrative and placebo. Just because more whites are successful doesn't mean there's a problem. What about that there's more whites in poverty, by a long shot, in this country? The contradiction here is that people will point to more whites being successful and say there's white privilege. But the truth is that there are more whites within the country and thus more chances for people of that heritage to be in high positions. The same applies with whites in poverty, but no one bats an eyelash. No one says there's white disprivilege. They only utilize that logic to fit their own narrative and to feed a placebo. Another hypocrisy I see so often is when people say white people are white, so there's no way for them to understand the black experience, but then are oblivious to the fact that black people are black, so they should have no understanding of the white experience. It's time to be done with the hypocritical narratives that provide excuses and enable laziness. These narratives inspire things like affirmative action, where black people get accepted into colleges without having to score as high. Where does that contribute to current day oppression? It doesn't. Those times are over. Someone who believes they can be successful has a lot better of a chance than someone who believes they're incapable. I suggest you make up your mind on which side of that coin you want to be on and understand the psychological consequences all this oppression talk has on the black community.